Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Baby Talk Tuesday. Um, it actually is on Tuesday this week. It's actually the only Tuesday this week that it'll be on Tuesday. So if you are always checking in with Baby Talk, next week it will be on Monday. I'm going to be going out of town, so Tuesday I will be on a plane. Anyways, welcome everyone to Baby Talk Tuesday. My name is Cara Wright. Um, and I am a facilitator of consciousness and birth practitioner. Been working with women and babies in this unique time of their lives for going on 20, 25 years now. So I have lots of experience and lots of awareness. And these Baby Talk Tuesdays are basically a different perspective on birth and pregnancy and conception and all things babies. So, welcome. So, today, actually, all of June, we're talking a little bit more kind of to the either before you get pregnant, during the course of um, getting pregnant, whether you're specifically trying to get pregnant or you just found out you're pregnant. But kind of looking at that area of time where a lot of people, it's not an area of time that people really focus on, except for when they're focused on it, right? So it's one of those things that is, until you're kind of in that moment of like, to conceive or not to conceive, it's not really something that you think about. And there are some people who it's not really a thought process to conceive. They find out they're pregnant and that's kind of how the journey begins. And then there are people who, you know, are more of a planner type of a person and, have all their little ducks in the row and now they're going into like, that time of their life that they've decided now is the time to have a baby, and they purposely go on the journey to conceiving a baby. And then there are those who go on that journey to conceive, and the conceiving isn't as easy as you thought it was. I'm definitely one of those people that's in that population. Some of you have heard a little bit of my story, and I will be also speaking a little bit more to that next week. But this week I wanted to just really talk about like that whole energy around to have a baby or to not have a baby. And also the energy around like you just find out that you're having a baby. So it's one of those things where, from my experience and from what I've seen, with women, and even culturally, and this would be different culturally across the world, across the globe. The thing about pregnancy and birth is that it is so connected to the culture that you are born into, whether it be like your like ethnic culture, or whether it be like where you live, like the country that you live in, the population of people that you call, your people, the family that you are born into. So what's really interesting is, although we never really like, you don't specifically think about it, although you do think about it. It's one of those things that's kind of always with you, especially if you're a woman. It's kind of always with you that eventually you'll have a child. And most women either just are like, yep, I'm going to have a child. Or, then there's some women who will go into resistance of like, no, I don't want kids. And there are some people who kind of just pretend that that's not going to be something that occurs until it does occur. And there are some people that just have an easy way with it. Like, yep, going to have kids. They, find a partner and go on that adventure, and it's just a really easy kind of 1 2 3 4. I think the space that I'm kind of speaking to today is more like when you get into those areas of like, a lot of people have reached out to me about, what do I do if I'm really aware of this being who is desiring to come and be my child, because I did talk about that last week. So if you missed last week's baby talk, I talked a little bit about, being really uber aware of these beings who, for some women, you're aware of the energy of the baby that you're going to have long before you actually conceive. Long, long before. And I spoke a little bit to it last week where I actually was aware of, still sometimes am aware of energies of the babies that would have been my children if I had conceived. And so it's like that is just in your world all the time. And there's some people that are definitely more, some women who are definitely more like easy with that choice. Like, yeah, like they desire to be a mom, that is something that is in their world. And I think when you're looking at like to conceive or not to conceive, one of the first things, and I wish I would have known this like way back when, one of the first things you really want to start looking at is like, what do you desire to create for your life? Like, if you are actually desiring to become a mom and to have a baby from what it will create for you and what you would like to have for your future, are you doing it just as a knee jerk reaction because that's just what's expected of you? Or all your girlfriend, like the amount of women who would show up in my classes and it would just be like, well, all my girlfriends were getting pregnant, so I figured, well, now now's the time to get pregnant. It's so interesting how blasé the choice can be for some women of like, oh, okay, well, or you find someone that you actually you could see them being a partner in your life, and you possibly even get married, and so then there's this doorway that opens of like, oh, okay, so now the next logical step is to get pregnant. And I know for me, I really functioned from that. Like, I was a little bit more like, am I going to get married or not get married? Like, I had a partner in my life. Like, I didn't really have a point of view whether or not I was going to be married or not be married. And so that was kind of more where I sat in this, I'll say maybe conflict of like, what would I like to choose, without even really realizing that's what I was doing. And so was my partner. We knew we were going to be together. We just didn't know, like, are we actually going to do this whole marriage thing or not do this whole marriage thing? And what was interesting for me is like, when we did get married, when we did choose to finally get married and we got married, it was like the next thing was like, of course, we're going to have babies. And like, again, those of you that heard my story, it's like I was knee deep in all things mom, baby, birth. That's all I did. Like at that point in time, I had my own yoga studio. I was a doula. I did prenatal and postnatal yoga and birth preparation exclusively. That was all. So it was like everywhere in my world, it was like, of course, that's the next logical step. So the first thing I wanted to like invite you to really start to look at is like, are you actually being present with what this choice would create for you? And or are you functioning from some sort of like next logical step, quote unquote? Like, is there something that, is like, oh, okay, so now I'm married, I'm settled down, or some people, for some people, it's like, well, now I've got a job and I've got like the money, like I have the security, quote unquote. So now is the time. Like, there's all these really weird cultural, societal things that almost trigger women to go into like, well, now is the time. Or for those of you women who like, that's just really not what you want to do, instead of just being able to have the easy choice of like, I don't desire to have children, and have that just be not like it is actually a viable choice. Isn't that how funny? Like, I can even perceive just me saying that out of my mouth, the energy that brought up for a lot of you. Like, yes, you actually can choose to not have children, and it is not you making a wrong choice or a bad choice or a selfish choice or whatever whatever all that energy is. And I guess that's kind of what I'm here to speak to today. It's like, what, like, if you're in that space of, do I have a baby or not have a baby, like, what are you referencing? who are you referencing? You know, like, is this something that you're looking at based on like where, like I've already mentioned a couple of different things that like this would occur. And so then this occurs. Like there's so many, and it seems like with pregnancy and babies and becoming a family and becoming parents, like it seems like this, that it's more of a knee-jerk reaction, more of a auto response to something than it is actually a choice that you're making. And so again, what I would like invite you to is to really start to be present. Like, where are you actually looking and being with this energy from? Is it actually from what you know is possible for you and what you would like to have for your life? Are you including you in the choice for whether or not to have a child or not have a child? And for some of you, you're probably listening to this going, well, I didn't have a choice because I just found out I was pregnant. I talked a little bit about that last week, but it's like we all have the ability to be aware of what's going on. And if you're someone who is like putting the body parts together, there's always a chance that that's going to be the thing that shows up. Now, some of you um, have a little bit too much faith and trust in contraceptives and things like that. Um, and I have seen babies who really desire to be part of families do some miraculous things to get here. Like, you know, there's women who should never have been able to get pregnant that have gotten pregnant. There's also women, I'm one of them, I was so acutely aware of the beings that were here to be my babies. And no matter what, it seemed like no matter what I did, it never physically occurred. And so there's all sorts of different obviously there's all sorts of different paths that women take to find themselves in this moment. But if you're someone who is actually like in the consideration of, is this something I desire to do for my life or not, like the very first thing you have to start to do is look at like, what am I actually like referencing in order to choose this? Is any of it actually mine? Or are you looking at like, well, if I do this, it'll create this for that person or that person or that person. Women are so good at being acutely aware of what other people desire, require, expect of them. And so many of us automatically step into those roles without ever asking ourselves a question. What would it look like if you actually started to ask yourself questions? If you gave yourself the space to be like, okay, so if I choose this, one of the things that, and I love this question because it basically takes you out of your logical mind because it's far enough into the future. You can't be logical about it. Because, raise your hand if you're like an overthinker. Raise your hand if you're a planner. Raise your hand if you're someone who thinks if they can think about it long and hard enough, they will figure it out. I mean, I could raise my hand for all of those things. What's interesting about that is the majority of the time that you're thinking, you're actually not in the space of considering or including you. When we're thinking and we're having a lot of thoughts and we're like going over a lot of details and we're doing that, you're actually more in a referencing what you're aware of in other people's worlds. Which, if that's where you desire to make this choice from and that's not a problem for you, that's fine too. But if you actually desire to choose to have a baby or not have a baby based on what it will create for you, including you in the choice and the computation of it, the beginning is actually being like here of like, okay, cool. So if I choose to have a baby, what will my life be like in 5 years? And actually perceiving what that energy is. So the thing that most of us aren't told, and we should be told the minute we are born here, is that we're very highly energetically aware. Very aware. Now, you know this about yourself. Like, when someone you care about has something going on. They don't have to say it out of their mouths. You can perceive it. You pick up on the energy. a lot of us, like, like, you can feel into an event that you're going to and know what to expect when you get there. Like, this is all stuff we do. And then we make it, either pretend that we don't do it, which is, I think, so strange and odd, or we make it like really significant. It's actually like we are energetic beings. Energy is actually our first language. So you being able to perceive into what something will create for you is not, it's not something that isn't available to you. It totally, absolutely is, but no one tells you that it is. And so then you go about pretending that you don't actually know, or like ignoring what you know, because one of the things about energy is it doesn't really lie. So it's like you can perceive an energy and be like, I don't really want that energy. I would get really good at going, I'm going to pretend earmuffs. I'm going to pretend I didn't perceive that. So, give yourself a little bit of space. If you're someone who's never actually like been willing to acknowledge you perceive energy, and like acknowledge that when you ask a question, you actually get the energetic energy of the question that you're asking. So like if I were to say, if what will my life be like in 5 years if I choose to have a child, I can perceive into that. And then I can say, what will my life be like in 5 years if I don't choose to have a child? And I can perceive into that. Now, is one right or wrong? No, they're different. And so the other thing that is like kind of related to this, but not um, specifically related, is if you have not yet done, I'm going to say, the work of asking what you would like to create your life as, like actually looking at like what you would like to create, like, like how much money would you like to have, every month or every year, like what kind of job would you like to have, what kind of friends would you like to have, what kind of partner would you like to have, um like what would you like to have included in your life, where would you like to live, do you want, like, all of those things, like what would you like to do as a career, what inspires you, what are the things that you would love to have in your life. And it's amazing how many people move into having children without actually having this conversation with themselves. Because you can have a child, because yes, there are some babies that are there and they're like, I want to be your kid. Like, and they're there and you're aware of them. Sometimes that's not the case. And if you are clear with what you would like to create your future as, you can actually pull in a being who's like, hey, I would like to help create that. I would like to contribute to that in the world. And you can actually attract the being that is going to work for you and work for what you would like to have in your future. However, if you are not energetically clear about what you would like to have in your future, it's very difficult for you to know, and for any being that's considering coming to be your child to know if they could actually contribute to that. Um, and I am 100% aware that this whole conversation might be the first time you're actually being invited to look at this in a different way. There is absolutely more than we know to what actually goes on when women choose to have babies, not choose to have babies, when women get pregnant. And sometimes, and I said this last week as well, like, this isn't wholly a conversation for women, because sometimes there are beings that desire to be come into the life of a male partner, and and that male partner finds a female, and they do it together. Like, if a woman doesn't have a point of view and she wants to have that experience with this partner, like, it's amazing all of the different ways in which this can show up. And really what I'm inviting you to is like staying present with what you would like to create in your life, actually asking yourself those questions, asking, if I have a baby, what will my life be like in 5 years? If I don't have a baby, what will my life be like in 5 years? And having that energy show up. And if you've done the work of knowing what you want to create your life as, it there will be one of those energies that is more similar to the energy that you know you would like to create your life as. That's how creation is. That's how we actually create. Now, sometimes we do it consciously, and a lot of times we do it unconsciously. I mean, one of the things that I love about access consciousness is um, it is tools for you to know that you know. And when we say know that you know, it's like you know what you would like to be and have and generate here. And oftentimes, based on a million circumstances, societal, culturally, familial, your own personal points of view about yourself, about your body, about your partner, like things you pick up in other people's worlds, you often, a lot of people often choose to not be aware of what they know. They'll actually ignore what they know. You know, you've all done it. You've all done it where you like had a little niggling sense of like, maybe that's not my best choice, and you did it anyway. And what happened, right? Which that's not a big deal either, because it's like every choice gives you an awareness of what else you could choose. So what if nothing was wrong? What if no choice was wrong? And even for those of you that were like never having kids, oops, now I'm having a kid. What if that choice isn't even wrong? What if none of this is about getting it right or wrong? What if it's more about actually being willing to be conscious and present in the choice that you have to conceive or not to conceive? And what would it look like if you actually, asked yourself some of these questions? Like got present and involved and included you in the computation of what a family is. And, sometimes women, when they start to ask these questions, like, oh, well, I'm actually choosing this because my husband would like to have babies. I don't really have a point of view either way. Okay, great. Like if that works for you and you're fine, like that is how you start this journey of being a parent. At least that's that you like, that's how you're starting, and sometimes it's women will choose to have babies for other people, not even necessarily for them. It'll be circumstantial in their life. And that's not to say that it's a wrongness. The questions aren't for you to go like, well, I'm only going to choose this if it, like personally works for me. It's more for you to be conscious of where you're choosing things from so that every choice you make creates something that is similar to the energy of what you would like to have for your life. So, thank you for joining me today for Baby Talk Tuesday. And if you have any questions or this conversation would contribute to anyone you know, a share would be wonderful. You can also join my Facebook group, Baby Talk with Cara Wright. And these Baby Talk Tuesdays are in there. You also have the possibility of asking questions, of asking me to talk about different topics on these Baby Talk Tuesdays, which is amazing when I get those questions from you guys. Creates a very different energy. And we will see you next week. Next week, Baby Talk Tuesday will be on Monday. So we'll see you then. And if you have any questions, ask in the group or PM me, and we will see you soon.